Hey, what's up everyone? This is your friend and host, PCJ, the Pop Culture Junkie, here for a brand new episode of What's PCJ Watching? So this week we're going to change it up. We talked about movies last week. This week we're looking at TV series. And boy oh boy, do all the streaming services have a plethora of TV shows and TV series to choose from. To kick things off, let's go over to our Hulu account. And I am going to be checking out the amazing series from the late 80s through early 90s called Married with Children. If you haven't seen Married with Children, let me give you a little rundown. It's about a not-so-typical suburban family in the windy city of Chicago, the Bundys. And the Bundys are not your typical sitcom family. Now, think about it. We had shows like The Cosbys. Think the total opposite of the Cosby Show back in the 80s, okay? The family consists of two children who are unruly, don't care for their parents at all, are not happy. But when your parents are Al and Peggy Bundy, you're going to have a few quips to argue about when it comes to how you were raised and fed ever. The show itself is a comedy. It's about the Bundys, who are not your typical suburban household. They don't like each other. They are there for each other when things are called for or when in need. But Al is a shoe salesman who has to go home to a unloving wife who doesn't appreciate anything he does for the family. He married his high school sweetheart, had kids right away, and he could have been, in his mind, the greatest football player of all time. He was a great football star in high school. He continuously reminds us that, being a star and scoring 4 touchdowns in a single game. Peggy, his wife, is a couch potato, bonbon eating housewife who does zero housewife duties, doesn't clean, cook, and just constantly wants to have the better life, but does nothing to actually support her man to get to that next level ever. And across the street, they have their neighbors. First, the Rhodes family of Steve and Marcy, and then later we have the Jefferson Darcy character show up, and he marries Marcy, and she becomes Marcy Darcy. She ends up marrying a kind of like a playboy, gigolo-style type character guy. But the show is just funny, vulgar, of course, in a lot of ways. Very colorful humor, but it was Fox in the mid to late 90s when it started, or mid to late 80s when it started, and the show ended in 1997. Had a long run, and some people favor the early seasons to the later ones, but I love the show from beginning to end. The characters were amazing, and the star of the show itself, Ed O'Neill, he carries that show from beginning to end. So definitely check that out on Hulu. Over on Netflix, we're going to kick it old school and bring in the nostalgia one more time. And on Netflix, I'm checking out the series Cheers. Cheers was a American classic sitcom, took place in a bar in Boston, and it's run by a former Boston Red Sox pitcher, played by, Sam Malone is the character, played by the great Ted Danson. He has a wonderful variety of characters, such as Woody, you have Coach, you have Carla, you have just a wonderful variety of characters in this sitcom. It deals in part mostly with Sam running the bar, losing the bar, trying to get the bar back. He's a womanizer, loves women in every way, and at the same time he begins a romance with 2 different women from the early seasons and later seasons in Diane and Rebecca. Then you also have one of the great characters, Frasier, who later became his own sitcom spinoff from the end of Cheers, played by Kelsey Grammer. So you have a great selection of characters, and the show is just hilarious. I love it and recommend it. So I'll be checking that out on Netflix. Over on Disney Plus, we're going to do some educational programming. We're going to check out National Geographic's Draining the Ocean. So this is a series where it covers shipwrecks or ships that were sunken by either accident, maybe in a war, who knows. They go in and they discover shipwrecks, wreckages that have been lost forever, and due to the advances in technology as of late, we're now able to track them and find them better. Of course, Titanic is the first one that comes to mind, but there's been many different shipwrecks over the centuries that there have been ships, and they go in and they explore the history of the ship. How did it sink? Why did it sink? And maybe some mystery surrounding it as well. And you get to see where the wreckage is now and what it's become of ever since it originally was above water. So we'll be checking that out on Disney Plus. And lastly, over on Amazon Prime, I'm looking at a very, very favorite show of mine, and I'm sad to say that it was already canceled just a few years ago, actually. The very hilarious, amazing, and I don't really like reality shows that much, but this one was a favorite of mine, and you know why. Comic Book Men. This is, of course, the reality show based in the famous Secret Stash comic book store, Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash, located in New Jersey, owned by Kevin Smith, one of my favorite filmmakers. You have Mike Ming Chen, Brian Johnson, and Walter Flanagan. They are the 4 comic book men that work in the store on the show. And then you have Kevin Smith, who is the owner. He'll pop by from time to time, and he starts the shows every episode with a podcast style discussion. And they do have a podcast of back when they were doing the show, where they would actually sit down and discuss and dissect each episode and share moments that they all liked and enjoyed about whatever episode was that week's screening. But during the show, you have the shenanigans of the 4 guys poking fun at each other, talking about all kinds of pop culture and comics and movies. And then during the show, you have real life customers show up, and they either are looking to buy a certain relic, comic book, collector's item, action figures, etc. And then you have people that come in and they have stuff they want to sell, and you get to see some really cool items from your childhood, my childhood, and such. And also from time to time, you get to see random variety of celebrities show up, from Adam West to Harley Quinn Smith. You had Dean Cain, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, Stan Lee. I mean, the list goes on and on. You had so many cameos in this show. Definitely you want to check it out if you're a fan of Kevin Smith's work, or just enjoy reality shows. You enjoy collector's items. Definitely want to check it out. All right, everyone, that is what PCJ is going to be watching this week. What about you? Leave me some comments below and share. What are you watching? Thank you for watching. I will see you next week. This is PCJ. Enjoy your shows, enjoy your movies. Signing out.